Okay. You know, today before I go and start any topic, I just want to give an overall recap of the things that we have done so far, like from the beginning. Just as a quick overview from day one what we have thought, and I want you guys to just think about it for a second when I'm talking about a topic, and if you feel like there is a topic that you are completely unaware of, or there is a topic that you are hearing it for the first time, we got a problem. Okay, so you might have to go back to the recordings and look at those. But I just now that we are so far, I just want to give one overall recap of all the things that we have done so far. Okay, feel free to stop me at any time and ask me a question. I'm happy to do that. I'm not doing anything on the monitor, so you might not be seeing any movement. Okay. So first we started with what Salesforce is, what cloud computing is, what are the modules of cloud computing, and, how each module, like platform as a service, software as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Software as a service is nothing but an end ready-to-use product. Platform as a service is nothing but, the platform which is used to write software. Infrastructure as a service is nothing but, companies like Amazon or Heroku, or, these people are providing the ability for us to create databases, launch our applications on them rather than we maintaining the model. So cloud computing helps us to move into OpEx model rather than CapEx model. OpEx stands for operational expenditure. CapEx stands for capital expenditure. So the reason why it's OpEx model is if you are building your own database like Oracle or SQL database or anything, you have to buy the database. You have to buy the server. You have to maintain the server. You have to have the infrastructure. So you have to put so much initial cost to even get started. That's why it's capital expenditure. But later on, you just might be using the maintenance cost. Whereas in cloud computing, especially things like Salesforce, it is OpEx model because there is no initial cost at all. Depending on the number of licenses that you want, you just pay the license fees and you will start using Salesforce and you get all the features that are there. So you're not putting any capital expenditure, but you're working on a monthly operational expenditure model. So that's the difference that cloud computing gives you, and Salesforce is one of the CRM application. Then we talked about what CRM means. CRM is customer relationship management. Customer relationship management is nothing but, people create leads. Leads are converted to accounts and contacts and opportunity, and the opportunity passes through different phases like, initial stage, then proposal, quote, review, negotiation, and finally the opportunity ends with either close won or lost. So any application that deals with the lead conversion, opportunity creation and all this, these are called a CRM application. There are so many CRM applications in the market like Oracle CRM, Microsoft Dynamics CRM, Sugar CRM, Yoho CRM, Salesforce CRM is one of those. Now, Salesforce also does those things because we have seen when we signed up for Salesforce, you got your username and password with system administrator profile. And when we saw there is a standard app called a sales app where you have seen account, contact, opportunity, and the whole fully built product. And we also know that we can customize and configure the application according to us, and we can even build new applications and by leveraging the platform that is provided for us. Okay. Now in Salesforce, there are two major modules. There are multiple modules, but two major famously used modules are Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. So Sales Cloud is nothing but all the operations that happen pre-sale. For example, like lead creation, account, contact, opportunity, the things, the transactions that happen prior to selling the product to the customer are called Sales Cloud. The module is called Sales Cloud. Then at the same time, we also have something called Service Cloud. Service Cloud is nothing but the name itself is Service Cloud. After you sell the product, you provide service, right? For example, call center or if they have any questions like warranty, all those things. So all the transactions that happen prior to sale or until the point of sale of a product comes under Sales Cloud. Anything that happens after the sale, like service, it's called Service Cloud module. Most famous is Sales Cloud, like 90% of the Salesforce applications that you see will have Sales Cloud. In addition, they might have Service Cloud, Community Cloud, but most of them are Sales Cloud. Now, so that's about what you call the modules of CRM. Then again, we signed up for Salesforce. We got our own user account, and we started using Salesforce. We tried to understand what the CRM process is within Salesforce. Okay. Then we try to understand few things about database, what is a table, which is nothing but an object in Salesforce. What are columns? What is a primary key? What is a foreign key, or how object relationships are there and stuff. Then we started building an app called as conference management app. So we created an app. We tried to understand what is meant by a user in Salesforce. Like a user is nothing but a person who uses. Usually the employees of the company will be the users in Salesforce. A system admin is nothing but a privileged user who has the ability to be able to modify or configure or customize anything. Okay. Now, we created objects. Objects are nothing but tables. While creating the object, if you notice, the name of the object will have _C in it. That _C stands for custom object. And there are other objects like account, contact, opportunity, lead, case. There are so many objects which doesn't have _C. These are standard objects that come out of the box with Salesforce. The difference between standard and custom is, as part of software, when we sign up or as part of Salesforce license, Salesforce provides some objects. Those are nothing but standard objects. And then, the other objects that we create ourselves are called as custom objects. Okay. And now, while creating the custom object, we notice some of the features like we can allow reporting, we can allow activities, we can create tabs, and we can expose the tabs in the app. While creating the object itself, Salesforce forces us to create a field called name field. The name field can either be a text field or an auto number field. While creating the auto number, we can choose the format, and we have something called as the starting number, from which whenever you create the record, the thing goes up. Then, while creating the field itself, we have features like whether the field is required or not, whether the field is unique or not, what is the default value of the field, defining the data types. We have different data types like pick list, checkbox, currency, email, phone, and stuff. We also have dependent pick list because we have seen in the example of state and country, depending on the country that you choose, the values in the state pick list are rendered. So we have something called as dependent pick list that we can configure too. And then we also have formula fields where the formula fields can refer, in order to calculate the number of minutes, stuff like that. We have formula fields as well. Once the object is created, if you hit save, the record gets saved to the database, and automatically there is a 18-digit ID that is generated for every record. The first 3 digits in that 18-digit ID reflect the name of, it indicates what object it belongs to. Okay. Then I think that's about object creation. And then we also have something called validation rules that we can write. Validation rules ensure that the data quality is maintained. So whenever you hit save, first Salesforce evaluates whether the data is, whether all the required fields are filled or not, whether the data that you entered is meeting the required format, for example, phone or email, whether you put in the right format or not. After after it checks whether the data is in the right format, whether all the required fields are filled, then the transaction checks whether the validation rules, if the data is meeting the validation rules or not. Only that is, after that happens, the record gets saved to the database and the 18-digit ID gets generated. Okay. Now, so that is why we call it as order of execution, where first the system validations, where system checks the required fields, then it checks the data formatting, phone or email, and then it checks the validation rules at the database level. For example, if, end date cannot be before start date, start date cannot be greater than end date, things like that. Okay. Those are valid. The formula fields and validation rules, anywhere you write these formulas are called as formula logic. Okay. That's the formula logic that we write. Then, we discussed about object relationships. In Salesforce, we have lookup relationship and master detail and many-to-many. Lookup or master detail, it does not matter. Both are one-to-many relationship, like, parent object and child object. But master detail has a strong affinity. It's a strong form of relationship where if you delete the parent record, the child object record gets deleted automatically. You cannot, and the ownership of the parent record is inherited onto the child record. The child record will not even have owner in case of master detail. That's why the security sharing, because we spoke about sharing as well. Owner field determines the whole security. So because the child object record does not have the owner, the sharing will always be controlled by parent. The organization by default for child object will always be controlled by parent, and the security is controlled by the primary master. Okay. Whereas in lookup relationship, both have their own independent owner fields, and hence, the security can be maintained independently for both. Now, in case of master detail, we can create roll-up summary fields. The roll-up summary fields can be sum, minimum, max, and count. Whereas in lookup relationship, we don't have the ability to be able to create roll-up summary fields. Okay. Now, so those are object relationship, and then you have something called many-to-many relationship. Many-to-many relationship is nothing but you create a junction object to be able to, establish many-to-many relationship. Example would be, we spoke about a student and a course. So student will be one object, courses will be one object. So then course registration is a junction object where one student can register for multiple courses and one course can be registered by multiple students. So that's called many-to-many relationship, and we achieve this many-to-many relationship using junction object. Now, the many-to-many relationship can be done either through two master detail relationships or two lookup relationship, one master and one lookup. It doesn't matter. As long as the object have two relationships, it is called as many-to-many relationship. In case of if you have two master detail relationship, whatever the relationship that we create first is the primary master. Whatever we create second is the secondary master. So the security and sharing, look and feel, everything is controlled by the primary master. Okay. Now, you can always convert master detail field into lookup field, provided you don't have any roll-up summaries, because lookup relationship doesn't support roll-up summaries. If you want to convert lookup relationship to master detail, you need to make sure the lookup fields are populated, and that's when you can make sure you can make the master detail relationship. Okay, and then you have something called cross-object formulas. Cross-object formulas are nothing but, formula logic will help you to, within the same object, you can write a formula and refer the other field. And at the same time, you can also travel to the parent and get the values. For example, account and contact. One account can have multiple contacts. If you're writing a formula on the contact object, you can always grab the value from the parent, because, we spoke about an example where you have the parent and you have children. If you ask the name of the child to the parent will never be able to say. The parent will ask an additional question, which child are you talking about? Whereas if you ask the parent name on a child, all the children will give the same answer. Okay, so that's the formula logic, where you can travel from child object onto the parent object, but you can never travel from parent object onto the child object. Okay, so that's the core principle of the formula logic. Okay, and it will be helpful when you write queries and all that too. Because from the parent you do not know, we cannot determine which child that we are talking about, and hence in formula logic we can always travel from child object onto the parent, but from parent to child we cannot do that. Okay, that's the formula logic objects. Again, we created an app as well, and then we saw the options that we while creating the app. We can have a home page, we can have navigation items, and we can enclose all those things into a bundle, and we can create an app. Then I think we saw some things about process builder. So process builder, validation rule prevents you from saving bad data, whereas formula fields help you to calculate some read-only values. Whereas process builders help you to, help you in updating the fields or sending an email alert. Like Process Builder have lots of actions where you can use Process Builder to be able to update fields, to be able to send emails, to make chat posts, or to put the record in approval process, things like that. You can do all those things using Process Builders. Okay, and now for sending the email alert, we saw that we need to create an email template first, and then use merge fields to be able to send email, so that depending on the record that is linked to it, you automatically get the values printed correctly, and that email is being sent. Okay. In the same way, we can create field updates, workflow field actions and stuff like that using Process Builder. I think after Process Builder, we also spoke about record types. So what is a record type? Record type is nothing but you can create within the same object itself, you can create records of different types, hence the name record type. For example, we saw in session example, it can be a global session, or it can be like, domestic level. Like I think we took the example of online conference and with in-class conference or something like that. If it is in-class record, we made the address fields show up on the page layout, whereas if it is online, we showed the WebEx link as on the page layout. So basically, record types help you to categorize within the same object itself. Record types help you to categorize the look and feel as well. For example, on account, we have business accounts. All the accounts that we use currently are business accounts. But if you want to support individual customers as well, you can create two record types on the account. One is individual consumer and another is business account. And you can create two page layout. One is individual consumer layout and another business account layout. Where on the individual consumer layout, you might have the fields like first name, last name, details about an individual consumer. Whereas on the business account, you might have details like what is the company annual revenue, what is the website of the, how many employees are working for that company, things like that. So the ability to be able to add record type, create page layouts, and do a record type page layout profile assignment gives us the ability to be able to configure the user interfaces very dynamically depending on depending on our requirement, stuff. And then you also, of course, we know how to create page layout. Within the page layout, what fields to show, what fields to hide, how to customize the related list and all that stuff on the page layouts. Okay. And then I think after these things are done, we also spoke about data loader. How data loader can be helpful, how do we perform insert operation, how do we create the data template when the record is inserted, how the ID is generated, if you want to update a record, how we need an ID, how to perform VLOOKUPs, what is the use of the VLOOKUP, and then we did a delete operation, in order to delete, we just need the ID. Then we talk about upset operation. Upset operation is a combination of update plus insert, so that either you can insert the data, or you can update existing records in the same go. We also spent some time about external ID, if you're migrating data from an external system into Salesforce, we use external ID field to be able to keep track of the IDs in the other system, so for future references. And then we also spoke about export, and then we saw some settings in data loader, how do you first create a folder, then create a success error log, make sure all the CSV files, and then using API names in the columns. Okay, so how do we do that? What is the advantage that we get by using that? So we spoke about that data loader too. Now, and then, we saw some example of inserting the data, exporting the data, deleting the data, performing an upset on the data. We saw those examples. Then, after the data loader is done, we spoke about the most important topic, which is nothing but the security and sharing. Security and sharing can be divided into two categories, where one category is determines what a user can do in the system. The second category determines what a user can see in the system. So what a user can do in the system is controlled by profiles and permissions. What a user can see in the system is nothing but record level security, which is controlled by organization by default, role hierarchy, sharing rules. So profile is nothing but it's a bunch of permissions like app access, tab access, object level permission like read, create, edit, delete, view all, modify all, system permissions, administrative permissions, Apex class access. We saw what login hours are, login IP ranges, and then password policies. All that stuff is controlled by profile. So you can create custom profiles. So why do we create profiles? Because within the same company, there can be numerous types of users that would want to use the system in different ways. So, for example, we created an HR profile where we provided all the permissions for HR-related applications. Okay, so that's a profile. Now, profile is intended for mass audience. You cannot create a user without assigning a profile to it. What is meant by a permission set? Permission set is like a top-up on top of your regular plan. So where you get all the permissions that you obtain through profile and you extend other permissions. You extend permissions on top of it. Okay. I think we took an example of student profile and professor profile. In student profile, we should have the ability to read assignments and submit assignments, whereas professor profile should have the ability to create assignments, read assignments, also delete assignments, grade the assignments, do a lot more stuff. Now, within the professor, there can be a professor who might be dean of the college. So for those, we create a permission set called dean permission set and assign additional permission so that they get to access, the dean-related activities. When along with, they can also do the professor job. So it's like a top-up. We cannot restrict access, but we always open more access using permission sets. It's like a top-up that you get on top of profile. Okay. So for a user, you can assign as many permission sets as you want, but the profile will be one. Okay, so that's about permission set, profile and permission set, and that's the difference too. Now, record level security is nothing but, within the system, what is the data that you have access to? Okay, I think we spoke about an example where, okay, as a student profile, you have the ability to be for assignment object. But that doesn't mean you will be able to see all the assignment records across the college. You are only able to see the assignments that are assigned to you or your class or, your group if you are working in group. Okay. So there is this record level security that is put in place. Now, one thing we need to realize is most important thing for record level security is owner field, not the created by field or not the last modified by field. The record can be created by anybody or last modified by anybody, but whatever value that is in the owner field is most important to drive what the record level security is. So the owners will always have access to the record. Okay. Then the OWD. If the organization by default is public read write, everybody whose profile or permission set provides access to that object will be able to read and edit the records. But if the OWD is private, except the owner of the record, nobody will be able to access it. Okay. If the OWD is private, but grant access using hierarchies checkbox is checked, so the owner of the record along with, managers in the role hierarchy will also be able to access it. Okay. If you want to do any horizontal sharing, if you want to share records between people of the same role or things like that, you need to write something called sharing rules. Okay. So the difference between a role and profile would be, profile is a set of permissions that are intended for mass users which control what a user can do in the system. Whereas role defines where you stand in the organizational hierarchy. In turn, it controls record level security by providing access to subordinates data. Now, for custom objects, you can choose to uncheck grant access using hierarchies checkbox. If you uncheck that grant access using hierarchies checkbox, the record level security, rolling up of record level security based on the role will not come into picture. Okay, so that is about profiles, permission sets, and roles. Then we spoke about a few things like, what did we talk about after roles? Yeah, we spoke about some standard features like account teams, opportunity splits. the share record, like share, if you click the share button, how the records are shared, the case teams, how Salesforce has that security, to provide opening the record access. Okay, so we spoke about that, and then I think we started about some standard Salesforce features like. Again, we spoke about account teams, opportunity teams, but we saw some other standard features like, what is the product, what is the price book, what are the price book entries, so like how do you create the product, how do you create the price book, and the price book entry. So we saw a few things in there as well, where the standard Salesforce features, and then I think we started about creating reports. Reports are nothing but just I think in the reports I gave an introduction where we create reports and we store them in a folder, and the security and sharing, everything is maintained at the folder level rather than individual report level. Because if you maintain the security at individual report level, it becomes cumbersome, because there are companies that would have 20,000, 30,000 reports. Whereas if you have a folder, you can you can organize the data and store all the data in a folder. That way you control security at the folder level, so that anybody who has access to that folder will be able to access all the reports on it, rather than controlling the security at an individual, at an individual record level. Okay. So this is where I think we stopped, and we discussed some interview questions like what is meant by CRM, how can you make a field required, through validation, through page layout, or by marking a field as required at the object level itself. Okay, and then what is the difference between master detail, lookup, about profile and permission set, the differences between role and profile, what a user can do, few things about data loader. We saw all those things. Okay. Now I will shut up after this. But do you have any questions, or did you feel like, is there a topic that you don't have clarity on, that you that you are hearing it for the first time, or like anything like that? Okay, guys, no questions? Everything is good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So now I'm gonna talk about some reports. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. Hold on. If we undelete the junction object, master detail relation, undelete the junction object. Niranjan, is that you? Like if we undelete the junction object,
Yeah,
master
yeah.
detail relation.
That day we discussed a little bit about this, underrating the junction object, what will happen to the relationship. You said right of myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
when I
so
undeleted the junction object and after checking the relationship, it is converting to lookup relationship. There,
Oh, so when you meant undelete the junction object, like actually deleting the object, not the record on the object.
no, object.
Okay. So when you asked the question for the first time, I was thinking you were talking about undeleting a junction object record.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, you're talking about deleting the object itself.
and both the same, like how
No,
the
see,
record and object are different.
record and object are different, right? Okay, let me tell you.
I mean,
So,
record and object are different only, but if we are deleting the object, it means we are deleting all the records along with it, right?
yes, exactly. I mean, we are deleting all the records in it. Whereas if you are deleting a record, you are only deleting one row, right?
Okay.
See, deleting a row, like deleting one row is a common scenario. Deleting a whole object might not ever happen. Like, you would probably rarely delete an object in the system, right? Like, see,
Yeah,
account, this is an object. Yeah. You get what the difference is?
yeah, I understood now. Like, I mean, there
Okay.
is no point in deleting the object. Sometimes we might delete the records, but we don't
Yeah.
delete
I
the
mean,
object.
usually in a transactional database, you will always be deleting the records, adding the records, but deleting the object is like, it might happen very, very rarely, unless it's like, there is a feature that you build and you are not using that feature anymore, you don't want that data in your system, probably that's when you will delete the object. Otherwise, you would never delete the object, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? Did everybody felt like, you guys have heard the things that I said before, and when I talk something about it, is that flashing you, like, is that flashing you some memories or any thoughts? Oh, okay, this is this, like anything like that? Okay, I'm gonna talk about reports. Okay, so see, I think we spoke about the report folders already, where you can create a folder. Like, if you want to save a report completely accessible by everybody, you will create them in the public reports folder. If you want the report to show up only for you, you will store that report in the private reports folder. Otherwise, you can create a new report folder. Like, you can create a new folder like this, and you will be able to store the report in that folder and control the security in there. Okay, you see, for example, we have a folder called Opportunity Management Reports. Okay, Opportunity Management. Let me go to all folder. See, Opportunity Management Reports, and then you can see Share button here, where you can control who you are giving access to this folder. Okay. Now, I think I also mentioned one more thing. In order to create a report, first of all, you click on New Report. Okay, and then you see you will be able to search for a report type. So, what is meant by report type? Report type is nothing but a template through which you will be able to create a report. Okay. For example, you want to create a report on accounts. So you will search for like accounts like this. Okay. So it's a report type. You see, you will be able to add columns. You will be able to add filter conditions. You will be able to drag and drop the fields. Like, if you don't want this, you'll just say remove column, remove column. Okay. So you can like, you can what you call, or if you want to add column, you can just double click this, and the columns get added, and then you can basically run the report. So because what happens, you're able to create this report. Like, you are able to click on New Report and create a report. Like, you already see these many templates, right? These many reports. We didn't create any of this, but these are already available here. Okay, why are they available here? Because, so when you create an object, right? So when you create an object, You see, when you create an object, automatically you see enable reports checkboxes. So the moment you enable reports checkbox, automatically here through here you will be able to add reports. Okay, if that if enable reports checkbox is unchecked, you will not be able to add a like you will not be able to create a report, because the report type here, the report type will not be available for you. Like, the report type will not be available for us if you uncheck that checkbox. Okay, so the report type is nothing but a template through which you create a report. Okay, a template. Like if you choose the account as the report type, you are able to create the report on that object. If you choose, you can also combine objects that are related to each other and then prepare a report type as well, so that you will be able to report on the data belonging to all the, those related objects as well. Okay, so that's about the report. Now, see, one thing I just want to make sure is I'm not sure if what you call Salesforce is allowing you to. Okay, group rows here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about some of the reports. How do you want to create? Again, see, this report is more of, remember the reason I told you why data loader is important, that you guys need to really practice the data loader and stuff. If you know the data loader, if you have used data loader, like this reporting is the most easiest thing that you can find. Okay, let's say, for example, we want to report on account data. What would you do? So you click on new report, you choose accounts, click continue. Okay, now you see the filter conditions here. It says show me my accounts, created it on or after. Okay, I'm gonna click this. I'm just say all accounts. I just don't want just my accounts. I'll just say show me all accounts. Created date. I don't want, like, if you want, you can pick a date, but I'll just say all time. Okay, if you want, like, if the requirement for you is to build a report where created date is between certain time, this year or anything like that, you can always create based on that, but because we have the data, we have less amount of data, we are just, using all time. Now, if you want to add any fields, like, if you want to see last modified by or created by, who created it, like, you can do that. If you don't want any, like, if you don't want fields like this, you can always remove column. If you don't want the owner, you can just remove column. Okay, so you can basically do this kind of stuff, and you can just say save. I'm gonna say accounts report. You see, if I store it in private reports, it's only visible for me, but I'm just storing it in public reports. Okay, so because if I store it in public reports, it's visible by everybody. Okay, so now you see, if I run the report, like, you can have this report URL as well. Like, let me go back to the report. So new accounts report, right? Like accounts report. Like if I click on this, you see, you can use this URL and you can give the URL to anybody and say, hey, you know what? This report allows you to see all the accounts that are in the system. Okay, so it would allow you to do that. So this is basically a tabular report. Like, it's just a basic, I mean, instead of querying the data, we are using filter conditions to be able to report on this data. It's very straightforward. Now, depending on what columns that you want, you can always click edit and change the columns that you want, change the filters that you want. It's very pretty self-explanatory, what fields that you want, all that. Okay. Now, let's say I'll run. Then you see you have something called like options. You have save as. Save as is nothing but if you want to create your own version, it's just like a file. Like, if you have an Excel, if you hit save, it saves like that. Like if you have an Excel, but if you hit save as and, give it a different name, it would save a different copy of that Excel. Like, here is an Excel. This is already there. Now I can just click this and hit save as and give a different name. What would it do? It would create the same copy of, the exact same file. In the same way, you can, this is a report. You can either click save or you can click save as to save a copy of this report. Now, export is nothing but, you see, when you click export, automatically the data in here will be downloaded into an Excel. You see, the data is downloaded into an Excel, whatever data that you have. So in the same way, we have within the export itself, we have, formatted report, like we have different kinds of things that are available in Excel that you can work with. Okay. So this is like, one of the report. Like you can basically export the data. Usually what happens is the business will say, hey, can you work on this report for me? Can you export the data and give it to me? You can always use these, like, these features, and you can always delete this as well. So subscribe is nothing but when you click subscribe, like, when you click subscribe, you can choose some time and all that stuff. So what happens is depending on the time, like, let's say you hit subscribe, you can like add the users who need to do this. So what happens when you hit this subscribe, automatically Salesforce will start sending email alert or a notification during your subscription. It's like, if you're subscribing to an email, right? What happens if you're subscribed to an email channel, automatically you get notifications and you'll receive notifications and all that stuff, right? So that's basically the subscribe function. Okay. So the important thing, again, the filter conditions, editing the report, adding the fields, these are like, when you have a requirement, you can always work on. But the important thing to know about is, okay, before even creating the report, you need to know what is meant by folder, because you, just like this account report, you will be creating lots and lots of reports. Like, for example, we create a report called closed won opportunities. Okay, closed won opportunities. What are the filter conditions here? If you click edit and see the filters, you see we are just saying stage equals to closed won. So this report will always store all the opportunities that are closed won. The moment any opportunity is closed won, if you command open this report, it would automatically show up here. So you can build lots of importance report like this and store it in a proper folder. If you feel like the report is open for everybody, you can create it in public folder. If you feel that the report should only be personal to you, you can create in private folder. If you want to do a controlled sharing, like, all the opportunity reports in one place, account report in one place, or management reports in one place. So you just create a folder, store the report in that folder, and share the report folder. Now, in order for the report to be created, you need to have a report type. So how would the report type, like report types are also two types. One is a standard report type and another one is a custom report type. So what is meant by standard report type? Like whenever an object is created, when you enable reports, okay, when you enable reports, automatically, like, when you enable reports, automatically you will be able to choose that report type and be able to create the report. Okay. If you do not enable the reports, the report type will not appear there, and hence you will not be able to create a report off of it. But for standard objects, that field is not controllable, so the reporting is automatically enabled for all the standard objects, general standard objects that you see. Okay, and then you create a report, you save it. It's like a view, it's like a view where you will be able to do that. Okay, this is a regular tabular report where you saved it, you are able to export it, you are able to subscribe to it, you are able to delete it, you are able to do all that stuff. Okay, now let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about a grouping report. Let's talk about a group. Like, let's take accounts itself. Okay, let's take accounts itself. Okay, let's go to the existing report and clone from it. Okay, so you have accounts report, right? I'm gonna say this. Group by type. Okay. So I create another report, I create another report called as account report grouped by type. So let me edit this report. Okay. So I'm going to add the grouping. Okay. I'm going to add like group rows by this field. Okay. And just run. You see what happened? Because I added group rows by this field, it is saying, there are 7 customer direct record. There are there are 4 customer channel record. Okay. So if you just uncheck this, it wouldn't show the details. There is an option here. Okay. If I uncheck this, it wouldn't show the sub counts. Okay. But now you see the sub counts too. If I do this, it wouldn't show the grand total. But now if I do this, it would automatically show the grand total. So here what we are doing, we are just creating a report, but we are doing some further analysis. Like it's saying, hey, what are the what are the records that we have that are give me a grouping by this one, the channel, the type. So we did a grouping by type, and automatically saying customer channel are 4 accounts, customer director are 7 accounts. Okay. And then you can also add a chart to it. Let's say we add a chart, you see, automatically, depending on the record count, it is showing it. I mean, we can select this. We can have a donut chart, and you see, customer channel 4, customer director 7, you can have a funnel, you can have a bar graph, you can have a column bar graph, how many it is. I like the donut chart for this. Okay. Show values, show percentages. Okay. And you can just save this. So what happens now, whenever somebody opens this report, because it is stored in accounts report group by type, we click on it, it automatically shows it. So rather than people going here just by looking at the chart, they will be able to understand, okay, customer channel are 4, customer director are 7. So, they can just use this graph to be able to determine the data. Okay. So let's create another simple report. Let's do accounts again. Okay. I'm going to do filters. I'll just say create a date all time. I don't want to show my accounts, but I want to see all accounts.
Shravan?
Yes.
So while selecting the report type, you are just selecting the object on which we are going to applying the report.
Exactly. Mostly, yes. Yes. We are selecting the see, report type is nothing but a template. Okay. Template from which we are going to create a report. Okay. But naturally, the object is nothing but, okay, let's observe these. Let's observe the reports that whenever we are creating. Okay. When you create new, see what's up, account, contact and account with partners, account with, see, these are not direct, these are objects, but you notice this account is one report type, contacts and account. Because account and contact are related, there is a report type called contacts and accounts as well. Okay, let's see the difference here. So when I click accounts and hit continue, you will notice fields available only from account object. Okay, so you see the fields that are available only from account object. Whereas, let's say I click new report and I choose contacts and accounts and click continue. You see, if I go to the fields, I see the reports from contacts, I see the report from contact object, and I see the fields from account as well. So it's not like, I wouldn't say object is the right word, but technically, I mean, the choosing should happen depending on which object, which object data that we want to. But this report types are nothing but, I mean, it will be object, or if it has relationships, both will be there. Like, you see, session is the record type, and you see sessions with session speakers and speakers with session speakers and sessions. So because there is a relationship between these three objects, automatically you have an independent report. Like if I choose sessions, you'll only be able to report on sessions. If you choose speakers, you will only be report on speaker object. But if I choose this one, you will be able to report on all three. Like, the data on all three would be there. So these are standard report types. When an object is created and when a relationship is established, Salesforce will automatically create these report types based on the object name or based on the relationship that the object has with others.
Okay.
Okay.
If there is no relationship, there is no way that we can.
Yeah, there is absolutely no way. If two objects are independent objects, yeah, absolutely, we cannot report on them, right?
Yeah, they are completely independent of their data, so there's no point.
Yeah, I mean, there is something called join report where you can have a common attribute, but that's, I mean, I don't like that report. I mean, it's not true reporting. It's just some kind of, synthetic kind of. Yeah, but yes, you're right. If there is no relationship, how can we, like, we won't have a common parameter between those, right? So that's why we will not be able to report on them correctly. Okay. So now let me just go ahead and continue one more report. Like I just want to show. So I go to filters. Okay, I have this. Then, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, I'm going to remove this column. Okay, I'm going to do by group. And I'm also going to do by you see this? When I do this, this is called as a matrix report. Okay, so like I'm doing a double, and then I can also add a chart as well. So when I add a chart, like, it would show, like here you see, it is clearly saying, the report is saying there are the type customer direct. In Arizona, there is one record. In Illinois, there is one record. In North Carolina, it's one record. It's, and it is giving us the total record count. Okay. So, I mean, if you do one like basic table, it's called tabular report. If you do grouping by one, it is called, summary report. If you do double groupings like this, it is called, a matrix report. Okay. So I'm going to okay, I'll still store it in public reports so that everybody will be able to access it and hence save. See, when you open this, see, this is the actual data. If I just show detailed rows, if I uncheck this, see, this is how it is. So this is the overall data, grouped by state and all that. Let me look at this. Now this one is saying among the 15 records that we have, each state, like, like each state, how many records that are there. So, I mean, and there is also a legend that's available. I mean, with Lightning, they have improved the user interface of reporting so much. I mean, you can do beautiful things with it, like charts, like pie diagrams, bar diagrams, and all that stuff. That too, like, look at this. The moment I just this, the graphics are so cool. The way how Salesforce does this. This is one of the biggest selling point for Salesforce, where they can just do these kind of graphics, like, I mean, not graphics, but you will be able to report on these things pretty easily, and that too, like, without much effort, right? And even you don't have to be a technical resource to do that. Even if you're a BA, or even if you're like a regular resource, like who knows about the data tables and the relationships, you'll automatically be able to create reports. You create these graphs and all that, and the management is so happy about, like, just by looking at that data, they'll be able to come up with stuff. Or you can just click edit here, show values, show percentages. That's it. Automatically it would show everything. You can hover over it, and it's gonna show all the data where you're hovering. Okay. So like, one is, okay, I'm gonna show you the examples here. You see, this is a simple tabular report. You can filter on it, like, you can apply filter conditions, and you can just, export the data, or you can do stuff like that. And then this is nothing but a single grouping. You are just doing a single grouping depending on the type of the account you're doing it. Okay. So then you have things like matrix report. Like, matrix are like, you have multiple groupings, and you can see the data, like, on customer direct, within individual state, how many records are there. So with the less amount of data set that we have, this might not be looking like much, but imagine, like, when you have opportunities, okay, and when you are doing a revenue graph like this, combine the opportunity amount obtained by state. Like, if you have a requirement, you want to categorize the geographical allocation of opportunities, or give me the, like, if a manager is reporting on it, give me the opportunity value by owner. So it will clearly tell you this person made this much amount, this person made this much amount. Like, so many things. Like, reporting can solve so many problems, and also assist in making lots of good decisions. Okay. So one thing, again, reporting is a huge topic of its own, like, very vast. They have like 300 pages or 400 pages book published on all the things that you can do. I'm only touching, like, the important things, like creating the folder, what is the report type, what do you do, and, some of the features that are available in reporting. If you have to go deep, we can just use Trailhead to be able to create some reports based on the scenarios that they have given. Okay. So I just want to tell you one other thing before, like, that's one of the common use case that people always tend to miss. See, we have this report types, right? So these are called standard report types. Like, we didn't create those report types. Those are standard report types that Salesforce is providing us. And if you add a field to account object, if you add a field to contact object, the field automatically appears in that report type. Okay. Now, one question is, can we create our own custom report types? Okay. Yes, we can create our own custom report types, and I'm a huge fan of custom report types. If I start a company, and if I'm implementing Salesforce from the beginning, I would never use a standard report type. Okay. I mean, because it has lots of issues that you would encounter. But, it's an easy thing that the report type is available out of the box. But if it was to me, if I'm starting a project right now, I would absolutely not use a custom standard report type at all. But there are a lot of companies who might already have those, so you just have to work with them. But I will just show you how to create a custom report type. So you just want to do report types. So I'll just say continue. I want to create a new custom report type. I'll just choose the primary object as contact. Okay. I'll show you what advantages. I'm going to store in category other reports. Just I'll put it as deployed so I can use this. Okay, so the primary object is contact. I'm not using anything, any relationship objects or anything, but the primary object is contact, and I'm going to just save it. Okay, and then edit the, see, this is a report type that's already created. So all I did was I tried to create a report type, and I chose the object as contact object, and you see the report type is already created. You can see the layout. You see all the fields are here, like, the fields that appear in the report type are here. Okay, so this is a report type. Like, this is a contact report type that I already created, contact custom report type. Now let's go and try to report on it using this. So we go to reports, I go to report, click new report, and if I search for in the other reports folder, you see contact custom report type appears here. So I click on it. You see all the fields that you have in this here, like, if you see the fields, all the fields that are in this layout appear here. Okay, now let's say you move these fields around. Like, you want the phone field should appear first, you want birthday to appear next, you want clean status to appear third, you want account name to appear last. Okay, just save it. See, remember I told you report type is nothing but a template. So here you are modifying the template, you are controlling what field to appear where. So what you can do now, if you just refresh this, so other reports, contact custom report. If you go to fields, you see phone, birth date, and the account name went to the last. So based on how you are, like, phone, birth date, clean status. See, phone, birth date, clean status. So depending on how you are organizing the fields here, the values are being shown here. Okay, now sometimes you just don't want, okay, you see, you don't want this to be added as mailing zip code. You just want this label to be postal code. You don't want it to be up here. So the object, you're not changing the label of the object. You're only changing, you're only changing the field label within the report. Okay, instead of last name, you want to call it as family name. See, last name is you don't want to change the last name, label of last name in the object level, but within just this report, you want to call it as family name. Okay, now let's go back here. Let me click other reports, contact custom report type. Okay. Okay, if I go to the fields, you would see, you see this family name. Instead of last name, you see there is no last name field. Now it is called family name. So, I mean, just within the report itself, you are able to, just within the report, you are able to control how the label should appear by report type. Like in standard report types, you don't get all this. But just because we created a custom report type, we get all these features. Okay. And now you see here, when you create the report type, see, unless I select the field, no fields are by default selected. Okay. So what we can do is we can come here, just say, double check it and click checked by default. Double click it, checked by default. So if I say checked by default, okay, and save it, you see right now you don't have any fields in the pane, but now if I go here, click new report, other reports. Oh man, I just need to refresh this, sorry. I mean, it might not be reflected there. You see, all these columns automatically came up. Wherever, if you look at the edit layout, wherever wherever I click this and click check by default, automatically those fields are by default, like, even without the user dragging and dropping, the fields are automatically available in the pane, the reporting pane for us to be useful. Okay. Now, one of the most beautiful feature that I like about this is add fields via lookup. Okay. So if I click this, see, contact and account are related, right? Account is a parent field. Even though the report type is contact, I can just click add fields via lookup. I can click account and just say select all, click OK. You see, I was able to add all the account fields as well. Through contact, I was able to, within the report type, I was able to grab all the fields from account. And then what I can do is I can just click a new section. I'll just say account fields. I just clicked on create new section here. Okay. And then, I can slowly drag all these lookup fields into this section. I mean, you can slowly drag. I think you can drag multiple too. See, you can drag multiple fields too and hit save. Okay. Now, if we go to the report builder, click new report, other reports. Let me just refresh it. It takes some time to reflect it here. So you will be able to see contact fields, and you see, and also account fields, because I created a section here called account fields. You're able to automatically see the account fields here, and whatever that I dragged there, that I'm seeing that here. Okay, that's the advantage of adding the fields in the lookup. Adding, like using a custom report type, you can control what fields would show up. You can also control, what label of the field will be within just that report. You can also control what fields will be selected by default. You can control, you can create sections of your own. You can also add fields via lookup. Okay. So most of the times what happens is, so your business would come because people are not aware that there is a feature that you can add fields via lookup. What, your team would come and say, mostly business analysts would come and say, hey, can you add a formula field to show the name of the account here? Can you add a formula field to show the account type? Or can you add a formula field? Like, on the contact, they want to display the account fields. Now we will ask them, hey, is it for display or is it for reporting purpose? And most of the times the formula field requirements will be for reporting purpose. So they want, while they are reporting on the contact object, they want to report on some of the fields that belong to the account as well. So in that case, so that's why if you are using a standard report type, sometimes it might not be possible, but that's why, like, if you, it is possible with contacts and accounts report type, but sometimes, traveling to other objects, all that stuff is not possible. But whereas if you create a custom report type, you can always use this add fields related via lookup feature, add those related object fields. Like, if account is related to something, you can travel to account, and then, you can also grab the user fields. Like, I think you can travel 4 or 5 levels deep to be able to get those fields and then create a report type out of it. So that way you will avoid creating a lot of formula fields. I say this because in the current one of the projects that I'm working on, I always get this requirement asking, hey, can you create a field for me on opportunity object? The reason why I push back, as an architect, I always push back, hey, why do you need a field? Because opportunity, Salesforce has a limit on the number of fields that you can create on an object. Okay, probably in your dev instances, it's 500 fields. In regular production instances, it's 800 fields. You can only create 800 fields on an object. Now, every day, every other day, reporting team or, BAs would come and say, hey, I need this field on opportunity, and I ask them what is the need. And the reason that they say is we need to report on it. We need the ability to export the data. So I asked them, hey, why can't you use a custom report type and add fields via lookup? And they say, yes, that's a great idea. We can use it, but we have already built lots of reports to users already using the standard report type. And in the standard report type, we cannot modify anything. We cannot change the label. We cannot do anything in the standard report type. So because they come back and say, you know what, we already use a standard report type and we already created lots of reports, I wouldn't, and they cannot change the report type, right? Suddenly they cannot go back and change the report type for all the existing reports. So that's why I end up, unwillingly or unhappily, I give the permission for them to create a field, and I ask the developers to create the formula fields for them unhappily, because, that doesn't have to, the requirement could have been solved without even creating that formula field, provided they use the custom report type. But again, these are learning things. That's why if I am starting a project right now, like it's a brand new project, nobody's used, then I would probably let's just hide all the standard report types and only work on custom report types. So that way we get more flexibility in terms of labels, in terms of creation of sections, in terms of adding fields via lookup and all those things. Okay. Guys, any questions? Any questions on this? All right. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you deployments, how do we move changes from one environment to another.